Hello and welcome to this episode of the Vision Rehab podcast. My name is Steve Kelley and I'm a certified vision rehabilitation therapist, and in these podcasts we'll be discussing issues related to both vision loss and blindness. Thanks for joining me today. Hello and thank you for joining me today on this episode of the Vision Rehab podcast. Do you have a disability? This month is the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act legislation, which the first George Bush signed into law in 1990. When the ADA was first passed, I never imagined myself having a disability. The legislation was just something I supported as the right thing to do for those individuals with disabilities. Then, 3 years after the ADA passed, I learned I had a progressive eye condition called myopic degeneration. So within 7 years, I had difficulty seeing the computer screen clearly, which was a vital part of my job at the time, and failed my first vision test for driving. It didn't occur to me that I had a disability. I just had a vision that my glasses and contacts couldn't fix. I eventually lost the job, in part because I was anxious about my vision and I hadn't yet discovered the screen magnifiers and screen readers for computers I might have used at the time. As the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. Several years later, I returned to school, a master's program for vision rehabilitation. I used a video magnifier and a handheld magnifying glass to read my textbooks, and let me tell you, it was a very, very slow process. Several of the students in my classes were blind or had less vision than I did, so I asked them how they were keeping up with all of the reading. They told me that they had electronic copies of their textbooks that let them magnify that on the computer or use the computer to read the text out loud. They got this material from the Office for Students with Disabilities as an accommodation, the type of accommodation the ADA was designed to encourage. One of these students asked me, "Didn't you get your books electronically when you signed up as a student with a disability?" Well, I didn't, because I didn't think I was a student with a disability and just didn't sign up. I just couldn't read print without a magnifier. So I borrowed their electronic textbooks for the remainder of the semester, which I was better able to read using the computer and a screen magnifier. So what is a disability? According to the ADA, a disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. So a vision loss that prevents us from reading the newspaper, our computer, work paperwork, driving, or even participating in that favorite leisure activity is considered a disability according to the ADA. If you have a disability according to the definition provided in the ADA, you're in really, really good company. According to the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 4 U.S. adults has a disability that affects a major life activity, and by the age of 65, 2 in 5 adults will have a disability. And let me repeat that. By the age of 65, 2 in 5 of us will have a disability. The prevalence of disability in our neighborhoods, schools, and workplaces may not be obvious until we consider these statistics that I just mentioned. Many disabilities are not obvious, so we may not realize who in our community has one. So for example, unless you asked me to read something, saw the magnifier or text-to-speech on my computer while I was reading or working, you'd probably never guess I was visually impaired. My intention here is not to try to convince you that you have a disability if you're finding some of your everyday activities a little bit more difficult to do as a result of macular degeneration, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, or some other eye disease. Not at all. Just to remind you that you're not alone and there are training opportunities and services available to you to find accommodations for work, leisure, and other daily living tasks. Ask your eye doctor for the name of the community or state agency that provides these services for individuals with vision impairments, or how to get in touch with a vision rehab therapist. You can also check out the resources on the homepage of visionaware.org in their state-by-state directory of services. So as you can see, the ADA is not just for someone else, it's a vital piece of legislation that will have a positive impact on a great many of us as we get older. Hope you have a wonderful day, and please join me again in the next episode of the Vision Rehab podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in today to the Vision Rehab podcast. I really look forward to you joining me in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, please email me at lowvisiontech@gmail.com, and that's spelled LOWV as in Victor, ISIONTECH@gmail.com, or visit lowvisiontech.com, and have a terrific day.